All right, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Commercial Real Estate News and Views Show. And I got my friends and friends in the house, and we're going to talk all things real estate. This is awesome. So I have Maria and Howie with me this week, and we're going to talk, which is super cool because Maria is in Toronto, so she can give us a lowdown on all things happening in Canada. Not all. I mean, I think the Eastern Canadians
Different
don't like.
perspective. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But y'all don't like the Western Canadians as much. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So kidding. The French Canadians and the German Canadians, whatever. No,
Yeah.
I think it's funny. But yeah, so we get to talk through that. And then also we will have just a ton of data stories, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Howie's driving. He's in California. He's driving, but he's going to hop in and we're going to talk data centers, which we tried to talk last week a little bit. So, but yes. All right. So y'all take it away. Maria, go first.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry leading technology for 30 plus years and worked for a number of different organizations as head of IT and CIO. So and now kind of working with a startup or a few startups. And so I really love these conversations and helping the industry to move forward. These conversations are excellent platform for opening it up and disrupting, right? So thank you for having me, Amy.
Sure, no worries. Hey, Howie, you're up.
Good morning. I run the global data center real estate platform for Avis & Young. I do all things related to data center real estate, and the data center market is growing at exponential rate. We've never seen something like this before. So there's a lot to talk about on the data center side of things. A lot of capital being deployed, a lot of development being deployed, and the biggest word in the data center world is energy. Where is it? How do we find it? And where can we get more of it?
Yeah, exactly. There was, and then also, I mean, that's a great segue into our first story. So it looks like Amazon is trying to keep up. So Jeff is trying to keep up with Elon, or maybe not, but they're launching this $1 billion data center. Amazon is, and Tesla already has their AI data center. So this is just going to draw more and more energy out of the grid that is already falling apart. So I didn't know. I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of talk around. Everybody wants to go nuclear. They don't know how to do it. Those things you can't just put those up like tomorrow. So energy is a huge concern for the data centers for sure. What are they talking about as far as, are they just hoping, well, we're going to break the grid and then?
Well, you know what, actually, Howie, I was wondering, because I was on a webinar about this exact issue, and everybody's talking about the predictability piece, right? And being able to better manage the prediction, like using AI to predict capacity so you can manage grid. Are you seeing that or hearing that, or is that what you've already tried to do that? Because I think that utility companies, this summit that I was part of was, kind of led by utility companies in Canada, and they're thinking we got to do a better job of capacity predicting, to basically forge that smart city, smart community type thinking. I don't know if is that where you're at?
It's a great question. The predictability is what we, U.S. is the domineering market for AI deployment because of a lot of factors: inexpensive power. Sorry, I'm driving and recording. So it has to do, most companies want to be located in the U.S. And in the U.S. data center market, we've got about, between hyperscale and colo total, about 33 gigawatts of power operating data centers to date, with a 2% vacancy in colocation. So there's really no data center space available. We need to build it as fast as possible. But the predictions for AI deployment is we need to add an additional 60 gigawatts of electricity to accommodate the data center growth in the next 5 years. So we need to more than double the capacity of what we already have just to accommodate the growth of AI. And when they $1 billion data center, that's a 100 megawatt data center. It's 10 million per megawatt to build a data center. So it's not that big of a data center to deploy $1 billion in the market. It's pretty insane.
That is insane. And that's just the energy to run the data center, right? And so, but then if you
Yeah.
think about, someone was saying that compared to a Google search, if you do a ChatGPT search compared to a Google search, ChatGPT uses 17 times the energy that a Google search does, right? So it's
30.
really, so it's
30.
really insane.
Is it
30
30% times? 30%
30 times more. Yeah, it's equivalent to a 100-watt light bulb burning for 13 seconds is one Google search, and a AI search is 30 times the capacity of that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And everybody's using it now. I mean, it's
Well,
such a crazy.
the big question for AI, which is really interesting, is we're deploying all this capital, we're building AI as fast as possible, but how is all that capital being spent going to make money? How is AI going to make money?
Well,
Yeah.
back to the value proposition discussion, Howie, right? What is it doing for the
Right.
business? But is it, again, back to that whole discussion of technology, is it the cost of running your business? Is it, or, you know, I mean, you can't not do it or can't not invest in the use cases. So what is it? Actually, we talked about this in another forum about what is the cost of leveraging AI? Because is it built into property budgets?
No.
But should it be, right? The innovation
Yes.
side of it?
Going to be everything, right? It's now
Development
just a really
budget. Yeah, the development budget should have a tech component then, right? When we're talking about this, right? When you're talking about
Absolutely.
developing data centers, like we basically definitely need to build that into, you know, the development budget and
Right.
the ongoing operating, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it being
because
done?
IoT
Right?
IoT is going to need to have that component, right? So everything managed is going to need to be managed by AI or be smarter.
But you
So
know,
that-
the thing
that-
is, are we talking about the tier ones? How, so the other thing is, and I don't know if you've delved into this, Amy, but then you've got the tier ones, like you've got the, you know, the Brookfields, the brokers, CBRE, you've got Avison, JLL, that have probably more access to capital than your tier two property managers or investment managers, you know, asset managers. So I was in a room where the tier twos, or we call them whatever, you know, smaller organizations don't have the money. They haven't
Yeah,
budgeted
interesting.
for, right? Like, I mean,
Interesting.
how
You
do
gotta
we,
find
how do we
workarounds.
get, right? Like, I mean, are they kind of focusing on acquiring assets at a discount now, or are they focusing on investing in AI use cases? Or do you have to do a little bit of both? And I think but I don't think they're really kind of setting aside. What are you seeing?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I don't in that respect. I don't know where those budgets are being spent, to tell you the truth. I'm more on the infrastructure side and the development of the operations
of the data centers.
What I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it all comes down to budget and funding.
Absolutely. You know, and a lot of companies, everybody's got to be, you know, all companies need to find space for CPUs to operate their services. And everybody's going to have to adopt an AI component to their services. Their CPUs are becoming GPUs in our world. And there's some security around that. So, you know, budgets, and I hear this from a lot of CTOs, that they don't have the budgets to cover the security they need for these deployments. And it's coming so fast, not everybody understands it. So it's taking a little education.
For sure. I think cybersecurity is gonna, in the real estate world, is gonna be super critical. And I don't think the real estate world's really ready for what's gonna hit them. I mean, just imagine all of the, I mean, we only knew we had a ton of tenant data, right? We had a ton of tenant data, so, I mean, I'm thinking not so much on the industrial and office side, but on the multifamily side. Can you imagine all the tenant data and all that, and those big multifamily REITs? I'm sure they're getting hit or are almost getting hit every day, trying to people to steal Social Security numbers or whatever it might be. But it's just going to accelerate with AI, because AI is going to teach people how to hack. I mean, oh my gosh, can you imagine? It's like going to be crazy town. What's going to happen for sure. But yes,
Well, I think the whole ransomware piece it's not a matter of if, it's how many times and when, and
right.
it's no longer, it's never going to happen to me, you know. I think that's the concern. But I do believe that the tech leaders that I saw, and maybe some of the business leaders are, you know, at Realcomm did a great job of having that cyber consortium. You know, they have now a formal consortium around security, but certainly there's a lot of people in the room around cyber talking about how they kind of build up their defense strategies, right? About against the bad actors, you know, the
Right.
talking about the attack. I think it's important to have those conversations for sure.
For sure. You know,
And budgets, right? Amy, like that's a
yeah,
big
yeah,
thing,
you
right?
can't, I can't imagine a real estate operator using the same budget from 2023 going forward. Like I can't imagine that they don't add line items in there for, you know, tech deployment, IoT devices, if they didn't do it before, right? Their tech budgets are going to have to increase exponentially just to keep up with what's being, you know, demanded by tenants or even anyone, right? Or just to manage their business. I mean, they can't be the same paradigm going forward. It's going to have to change, you would think. But there's, you know, there's real estate operators out there, the gray hairs that like to, you know, like do business as usual, stick their head in the sand. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that choose to do that. And, you know, then there's because I do think when we talk about security and risk, the consideration is also the rise of technical debt, right? Because
Right.
if you don't modernize, there's holes in the older tech, right? The older technologies that even if you continue to grow around it, you still have some challenges around the risk side, right? Because I do think that, you know, every real estate organization is always concerned about risk, whether it's the risk of the investment or the assessment of risk, or, you know, the risk of operations. Everybody's mitigating that. But I think that the technical debt side, if they don't modernize or leverage, you know, kind of newer technologies, that might also be a hole that they have to.
Yeah. I
right?
love that. I love that term, technical debt. No, never really. That's interesting. And how he just cloned himself is just super awesome. I love when people clone themselves. It's so good. He probably
know.
just got to his office. He's like, Amy, I'm switching, man. Like, stop being a
Technology. Well, you know what? A lot of people still, I know when we talk about technical debt, I don't know. I know how he's heard it or can weigh in on technical debt. But you know, everyone's trying to get out of it.
Yeah, for sure. So Howie, my question back to you on this I'm so glad you're here because I had a bunch of data center news stories, but I know Texas tends to be kind of the king where people want to put data centers because it's cheap power, right?
Right.
Has anybody is to back to this power, but Texas is also identified as a risk because they're on a grid by themselves. They're now trying to like pull a consortium with Louisiana and Oklahoma and people like that, realizing that was being on a grid by ourselves is kind of stupid. Yes, we're, you know, the mavericks of the United States and we can do this, you know, that kind of thing. But I think they realized after the snowpocalypse that we had a couple of years ago that was probably not the best strategy. So are there other areas around the US though that are like kind of epicenters for data centers besides, you know, my lovely home state?
Yeah, the biggest data center market is Virginia, and everybody wants to be in Virginia. Virginia is our tier one top market because that's where subsea cables come in from Europe. Everything's connected through there. So that's our biggest market. Our second biggest market is Dallas or Texas for that matter. Phoenix is next, and then California, Bay Area is a big market. Atlanta is becoming a big market. Ohio, but you know, all these states are running into the same problem. They're all having the power issue, and what do we do with it? You know, Phoenix has come up with a unique solution where they said anybody that's going to have power provided to them is going to need to self-generate 25% of their power on site. And other states are following suit by making these offerings because solar and wind are not going to solve it on their own. We're waiting for small modular nuclear to solve our energy problems so that the data center can be powered on its own on site.
So they're going to create their own electric generation facilities
Mhm.
as well as the data center. They're going to
Yeah,
have to.
Sam Altman is invested in a company called Oklo. Oklo is a small modular nuclear company, and they have contracts with. I had a call with them yesterday. They have contracts with Equinix, some of the biggest data center providers, to generate power on site for the data center. And the power is clean. It's efficient. There's no NOx and gas or any issues there. So and it's completely safe. You know, we're all scared of nuclear, but in maybe there should be a better term for it. Clean energy.
Yeah,
don't worry how it's made. It's clean.
Yeah. Don't worry that it's fission and fusion and whatever those nuclear terms are, which escape me at the moment. But I just watched Oppenheimer the other day, and I was like blown away. First of all, yes, yes, Amy, I should have watched Oppenheimer a long time ago, but I didn't. I waited till it came out on Netflix for free.
You watched Barbie all weekend instead of the Barbie.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
That was the challenge.
That's scarier.
For sure. But yeah, I think so there was an article came out talking about Loudoun, apparently Loudoun County in Virginia. The neighbors are like, screw the data centers. We're sick of the data centers coming not in my backyard anymore. There should be NIMBYa, not in my backyard anymore. Right? Like they're just like, they're sick of it. It's kind of
but they benefit from the data centers being there because even though the data centers are paying for the majority of the power, it's lowering the cost for the homeowners in the area. The data centers are paying for a lot of things, even though the data centers do benefit from tax incentives. And it's feeling like a little bit of a bait and switch for some of these developers because some of these kind of counties like Loudoun are trying to wipe away their tax incentives that they've offered to data centers. And at $10 million per megawatt to build a data center, you want to utilize those tax incentives in development, but they're being taken away.
Yeah, it's
little bait and switch.
Yeah, and isn't that fun? Don't you love when people do that stuff? It's so great. It's so awesome.
But I think I was saying earlier, and sorry I dropped you there, but the IoT is going to get smarter with the AI. Everything's going to get a little bit smarter. It's like we have a really smart calculator right now in AI. That's awesome. If we have any questions, we want to ask it or develop for us. But it's constantly learning. It's getting better. It's getting smarter. It's growing. It's a little scary in that respect. And I think we should all be concerned with that and how that. I don't think government needs to regulate it, but we need to watch how AI grows because it's in everything. And as you were saying about passwords, keywords, you just basically have a big set of keys now that you've had every password in AI. They could just try to hack stuff. It's interesting how things are going to change for us.
For sure. I think, I don't know who sets the guardrails. I think it's going to have to be someone that comes out and figures out what those guardrails need to be. But until then, it's the wild, wild west, and we'll kind of figure it out, I think, over time.
Yeah, hopefully it's not Terminator.
No. Terminator or iRobot, or what is the other one? I don't know how many of the AI movies we've had out now, but I think that's what everybody scares the living crap out of everybody is that right? The machines are going to take over. Maybe, I don't know. They gotta, our data is so fragmented. I don't think AI can figure it out anyway.
Sorry, guys.
It's too funny. It's too funny. So we have people also making moves. It's interesting. I'm so glad you're here because there was another article about people turning, or someone that was talking to the other week about, we have all this empty office space and people wanting to turn those into data centers, right? I mean, office to multifamily, like I was a multifamily developer. That just sounds like brain damage to me. It's so, that is not a good repurpose case, but office to data center, maybe, right? It's for sure, right? If they can do it. No
data center, no office to data center. It doesn't make any sense because the data centers are purpose built, and we have, I mentioned before, CPUs and GPUs. GPUs being the AI, CPUs being your regular data set, your regular services. Within a city, a data center is an edge data center for how it technically operates. It speeds up the connectability, you know, and lowers latency. And those data centers are purpose built. They also, the servers carry in racks, and all the equipment carry a lot of weight, and it doesn't necessarily make sense for an office building to retrofit a building to carry that load. You know, in a small deployment, yes, maybe, but not really. And I see more of the office being redeveloped into a live work environment, more residential. You know, I come from the development side myself, and I built buildings, and I've looked at a number of properties that I'm asked to evaluate for that conversion, and it just doesn't work. You're better tearing down the building and building up from ground up.
Exactly. Yeah, you better, it's just a covered land play at that point instead of converting it, because because the mechanical, it's all the plumbing and all the AC, and anybody can demise a wall. That's no big deal. It's like studs and drywall. Who cares?
Right.
It's all the plumbing and electrical and all the other stuff that you have to redo. And then, and probably the sewer main wasn't set up to be a residential thing. And so you're having to do stuff out of the street. And, it's just like, it's like sounded like I had a friend of mine as Wolf Investments. His name was Kenny Wolf, and that's what he was doing. He thought he was gung-ho and we're going to convert office into multifamily. And I'm like, dude, that's just that is brain damage. I mean, maybe if you could figure out a system over time to do that, but that's just a lot of moving parts more than, just doze the damn thing and build something new. Like, geez Louise, I don't know. But that, it's
a lot of co-working going on though too, from an office perspective, right?
Yeah, I think co-working
that makes a lot of sense, right? There's a lot of people that because of the whole work from home, people that want to go into the office, don't have the office space. It makes sense, right? That's really taken off.
Yeah,
more of that going on for the empty office space. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. No,
that's a good point, because the generation, the COVID has changed that. The generation now does not want to come to the office. No. They've completely, and HR supports that, and they're like, we have to support the employees, and we have to let them work from home. The only thing that's being built is anywhere you have to be at work and you need a tool, a lab, you need to work on something, and those tools you need. So that's what's being rebuilt. So we're seeing labs being developed for new technologies for so
innovation labs. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but I think what we've talked about is purpose-driven commutes. Like we talk about purpose-built, but there's purpose-driven commutes. So people, because they are, because also the cost of real estate in the core, there's a lot of investment outside of the core. So the commute to the core, to any kind of downtown is hard. So they're trying to kind of create that amenities built co-working space, right? Or make that available. And I think that's what they're doing with a lot of this empty office space downtown.
Which is mind-numbing, just thinking just from my generation growing up and going like, you come to work. you go to work, and if you don't show up, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, and it's very different, isn't it?
I'm sorry, your commute didn't work out for you? You're fired. It's so funny.
Yeah, no, so it was yes, for sure. And I think there was a whole thing around I was talking with somebody else, and he's very much of that mindset too. And he's like, in startups, he goes, there's no work-life balance. We're in a startup. Like, come on, people. Like, but combining that with the number one question that candidates coming out of college or like younger candidates say, can I work from home? More than salary is, can I work from home? And how many days can I work from home is the number one question that comes out of their mouth now. And so it's like, okay.
And everyone is expecting it. You know what, though, with I don't know about where, California or other parts of the US, but I think there's an infrastructure catch up with pandemic. There was the infrastructure, projects were on hold, and now they're catching up. So we've got some major infrastructure catch up going on that's preventing a very seamless commute into even like Toronto or the other core centers across Canada. So they've asked actually employers to be lenient and allow more work from home, right? So there is that sentiment at the kind of, I would say, municipal government level, what that says. So then what does that mean? So then it kind of opens up, okay, we have to come into the office, and when, and how do we do that, right? So do you come into a co-working space because we're going to reduce our floor plate, that whole thing. So I think it's,
Yeah.
there's a
It's
lot
funny,
of,
my daughter worked at Tesla last year as an intern doing writing code for Garage, and it was like, okay, can I keep the job? And they're all, not unless you show up here. And they're like, you have to show up.
5
for the
days,
job.
5 days.
There
a
is
week in the
no
office?
work from homes there.
Yeah. But no work from home at also 5 full days.
No, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody could. Yeah. Not even
It's
management.
interesting.
There were
Elon
people.
puts out all this stuff on Twitter, so everybody knows what's going to be like to work. Like he was like, if restaurant workers have to go to work, you have to go to work. Like that was his thing.
Well,
He's like,
yeah.
they're not getting a break. They have to show up, so you get to show up too.
There are management who fly in. Maybe they're, in Palo Alto here, where my daughter worked, there are management who live in the parking lot in a van or in a car. Maybe they live in Texas and they fly in, but they live in their car.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah,
That's
it's what
insane.
they want, that job.
Yeah, that's nuts. There's gotta be a better solution than people living in their cars. That's just like, I don't know, elected.
It's a
That's
van.
actually a little,
It's a
that's a
van.
little
It's a
sad.
van.
Yeah. It's a little
It's a
sad.
van.
It's a van.
Well, he just wants them to show up to work. But it takes me back to the day. I don't know if y'all know this, but Dell got in trouble probably 15 years ago. 15 years, it's because it's an Austin story. Because they were bringing in, they couldn't find any workers. So they're bringing them in from Laos or wherever,
Yeah.
and they were housing them and they were giving them everything. It's like, come, we need you to work. They liked their work ethic because they worked like 16 hours a day. No one cared. And then they gave them a house on Dell's campus. And somehow that turned into like almost enslaved labor. Like it was like insane. And it looked really, really bad. And so they had to like let them go live wherever they wanted to live. Like they were just forcing them to live there and come work because they were providing them this great job or whatever. That Michael Dell did.
Oh my gosh.
Back in the day. That was bad.
That's a Canadian
Smart
story,
idea.
actually. That's a Canadian story.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
Canadian story.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because that's out of Ottawa. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. That was in Ottawa? I thought it was here in Austin. They were doing that here in Austin too.
Were they?
Yes.
I thought that was a Canadian.
That was we're talking like 2000. They got in trouble for this. Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
Yeah,
they
'cause
replicate it and did it in Canada too. That does not shock me. Michael Dell would, try to save costs. Good guy.
Yeah.
Okay. He's an Austin. He's like a famous Austin person. I can poke. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, they all do though, right? Yeah, they all got
Yeah,
things
yeah.
again, right? Yeah.
For sure. Well, there's a couple other things, but I did know we wanted to talk about people are actually but a lot of the whole thing around, we've been talking about office, right? And there's like a mixed bag. Some people are buying office, people are selling office. I think I don't know how it's still hanging on. Like everybody was like, oh, it's going to die. No one's going to go back to the office because of COVID, but no, some people are buying it. Some people are using it. We've talked about repurposing office, but I don't know what the office of the future looks like. I can't imagine, but I know there's going to be a ton of technology in it. That's for sure. Understanding how you manage that. And when you were at Realcomm, Maria, I didn't get to go. Did you see any sort of like facial recognition, talking about AI? Did you see any sort of facial recognition tech there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't there for the whole time, but there was the discussion in the keynote. There was a lot of that, right? I mean, it was a tone, right? There was that tone of look at what's coming, like what other countries are doing. People are still concerned about the office vacancies though, right? Like
Yes.
There's that concern about what's
It's
happening. But there's I don't know if you saw that kind of blurb on the family office taken over acquiring a lot of these, like there's a lot of these joint ventures going on. The private capital is available for, buying these office assets at a discount and resurrecting them, right? There's that, there's a lot of money out there.
They've been waiting. This is the moment
they've been waiting.
They've been
waiting.
hanging out. It's not yet. We won't have price real estate.
But
You
now
gotta
this
remember-
partnership approach, right? Sorry, go ahead, Howie. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, you gotta remember, banks are not landlords. They don't own
No.
real estate. They supply debt. And they don't want these assets back. So they're
No.
doing workouts, they're doing whatever they can. The assets really haven't come to the market. They're the lenders are having to figure out, okay, what's a workaround? Because I'm gonna take a loss on this no matter what. So we haven't seen a lot of sales. There's been a couple of those distressed asset sales. But owners like, well, there's nothing I can do. The property's vacant and it's not leasing, and so they're having to work together to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's still a lot of this, is the hybrid workplace here to stay? There's still a lot of people on both sides of the fence. I don't know what you're hearing, Howie, but that's really going to determine what they do. And I think a lot of people are, okay, so what are we doing? What should we do? Are we doing anything at this point, or just holding and see what happens? Interest rates are supposed to stabilize in the US, right? In the fourth quarter. I don't think you're expecting to see an increase. It really depends on, or a rise in the rates, depending on what happens with your election, which we won't talk about today. But, there's a lot of that, kind of sentiment. I think I heard a lot of people,
Yeah.
kind of thinking about Canadian options.
If something good's been given to people, they don't want to give it back.
Right.
And if I'm working from home, I'm going to do everything I can not to give that back. And does it change? Maybe for some companies, but it seems that most companies like Zoom, what we're on right now, are accommodating show up 3 times a week. Most companies are just doing that to accommodate with their employees' needs. And it seems that that's been adopted, and we're just running that way now.
We're going to stick with that. I think that's going to, look at Tesla going 5 days. Like, people have tried 5 days. I don't know how successful Tesla's been, but we read about that. But the 5 days seems a little harsh now when you think about it. So do you build and do you plan your acquisitions and dispositions on the 3-2?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could safely do that, but then you have to, journey forward on that. What does that look like? But a lot of, there's still a lot of emotion around it. I'm not sure. Like, a lot of the visionaries and the strategists for real estate that have been around for a long time they don't want that built environment passion to go away.
Yeah. That's hard, right?
Yeah. And then
it's been a certain way for so long, and now it's changed. And there's got to be a restructure of debt to make it work for the investor. And if it's too expensive and they're not making a return for their partners, then it doesn't work. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see where this goes. I think we kind of there was an article we had out, something about San Francisco could take a decade to turn around, our company put out, and it drew a lot of attention. But it was saying, hey, it's going to take a long time for these offices to get filled back up. And AI technology isn't going to do that alone. We've always had different technologies that kind of pushed us along and made us grow. But yeah, I don't know. I don't focus enough on that type of sector to really speak educationally about it, how that operates.
Yeah, I know that there was I had a really good discussion around so the financing. So if co-working is the way of the future for the office, right? The lenders are going to have to change their underwriting models, because right now it's underwritten as if it's co-working, it's vacant. And so it's super so how are you ever going to get financing if you're going to go like an expansive and you're going to go buy an office building and the whole damn thing's co-working? Like that's their whole business model, right? And so and they have to get SBA loans, because it's definitely interesting, because the lenders it's the same thing with short-term rentals and multifamily. It's vacant because there's no, and I'm like, okay, you're putting such value and a year-long lease, when anybody can skip, anybody can take off, anybody can do whatever. So why are you placing value on this year lease versus something that can be leased for 3 times the amount, and all you have to do is lease it for 3 months and you're making more money? But it's really difficult for the banks to underwrite it. So that's where a lot of the private money comes in. A lot of those family offices are starting debt funds in order to lend for this new type of environment that we're facing, because the banks aren't there yet. It breaks their brain.
Yeah, I just saw an article yesterday that said that Gen Z is staying longer in rentals in apartments.
Yeah.
Well, of course, they can't buy.
They
Can't
can't buy.
afford, they can't afford to
they're
buy.
stuck. Right.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, well, duh. Yeah, I know. It's 7.5% interest and the prices haven't come down yet. So there is no buyer pull for a house. Like, shocker. I mean,
But then, you know what, behaviors could change, right? A lot of, behaviors
oh
could
yeah,
change
if
in
it
terms of,
stays
is
there,
it, is that
yeah.
what they're gonna do for the future? I
Right.
mean, that was our future, but it might not be theirs.
Right.
They might be
Exactly.
permanent renters. I think there
If
was
it-
this discussion around the permanent renter, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. They're just like, well, why do I want to buy? Why do we need to?
Yeah, I want to travel and I want to do this.
Why get married? Doesn't work.
That is another thing. That is so true. I like people just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, who
Change.
are these aliens that don't want to get married? I look at my children and I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't understand. Like, no, we don't want to get married. No, we're good. My daughter's about to graduate from college and she's at Purdue. She's like, no, I'm like, so you looking for a job? No. I'm just going to go hang out in Ireland for a year. I'm like, okay, I just spent all this money on your college tuition and you just want to go hang out in Ireland. Okay, you get a year. You get a year and then you're going to go get a job and like be productive member of society. I'll give you a year.
And that's the exact behavior that's driving this permanent renter philosophy, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, maybe I'll like it. And I'm not going to
Maybe.
kind of commit to, yeah, maybe I'll stay, maybe I won't, maybe I'll hit Spain after that,
Exactly.
Yeah,
I wish
listen,
I-
Mom, I have anxiety. I need a year off. You know how hard it is to study? Of course you do, because you have a cell phone. That's why you have anxiety.
Well, we all kind of like, what the thing is. So I know we
I
did the
do.
5-day work week on graduation from college, right? Or university, right? Like you kind of started working at getting a job right away was important. It wasn't like I had the money to do anything else.
Yeah.
But you kind of, and then you work 5 days, but then it's kind of, I told my daughter it's 5-day plus. That's why office space was, it wasn't available when we graduated because we were all there, but we were all there for 12, 16 hours. Then we'd go home. And if you're in IT, you would do more work,
Right.
Right.
So they don't want to do that.
No.
They
No.
do not. No. It's
So I
definitely-
think it's good. It's like maybe we were extreme. Maybe there's a middle ground that we got to get to that will help with the direction of really how we're kind of managing the built environment predictions, it's going to be interesting. But I do definitely think co-working is, even the assumptions to the model might have to change, right, Amy, to accommodate?
Yeah, for sure. The financing is going to have to catch up, and it usually does. Like
Yeah.
over time, when they start losing loans because this is what's happening to them, they'll figure it
Exactly.
out. I mean, they just kind of do. And there was one more article, and I'm going to try and see if I can pull it up. There was a survey of, let me see if I can get it, of 40 commercial real estate executives. I love when people like to do these crystal ball things because I find it hilarious. And so you're like, okay, yeah, we'll do a crystal ball. Let's do that. I'll just tell you what we think, and it'll be all wrong because we don't know where it's going to happen tomorrow, but we're going to just do it anyway because that sells news. So, but it was interesting to see what their concerns were now, and I'm pulling it up. So the big thing is that 2024 isn't going to plan. Surprise, surprise. It's not going to plan.
From
And
a acquisitions perspective,
from
everything.
Yeah, I think it was, remember, we were talking last week about, and I don't know what the acronyms are now, but it used to be survive till 25, right? That was like the big thing. And now they're coming up with stuff for 26 and stuff for 27 and stuff for 28. It's like, hold on to the gate till 28, like, or whatever it might be. Like, you just like, we don't know where it's
Right.
gonna go. But yeah, no, it was super interesting. So this one talks about, and everything's about when will the first interest rates drop? Nobody knows. I think the latest prediction was third quarter this year, and people still keep
What I heard.
people still keep saying that, but I'm just kind of like, the more people talk about it, the more it's not going to happen. So like, stop talking about it. but it was what was the thing? Okay. So there's a lot of mixed bag in it, but there's a lot of people. So obviously nobody wants to change strategy. That was one of the key things, which I thought might be an interesting deal, but they're just inherently, they're like, if they're an office real estate person, they're going to stay an office real estate person, and they're going to kind of figure it out and keep moving forward. No one's jumping ship. Like,
So they're not pivoting, like
they're
kind of
not
their whole
pivoting,
business model,
which
like in
I
response
thought
to the.
was super interesting. Like, this is a major, like, speed bump that we're all going through, but everybody's like hanging tough in their arenas right now. That's what they all said. It's like, you know, if we're
So it's the wait and see kind of thing, wait and see, hold,
Yeah.
like kind of not, yeah, is that?
Yeah, I think maybe it's
Which is
because they
what I
have enough
think so, too.
cash to ride out the wave, and maybe that's why they're staying put at the moment. But I thought that was the most insightful thing from that whole survey, was like, they're not switching. They're just like, okay, we're in office people. This is what we know. We're going to stay in office and we'll figure it out. Right.
No, you stick with your discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, and I'm assuming that if office does, or this form of office does go away, that, that they'll still be in whatever the form of office ends up being. I think they're just going to kind of stay, but yeah, they're not, we're not switching to industrial, or they're not. And it's super, because you see all the, like, the lower players, that's what they do. They all kind of jump ship. They all go, oh, now I'm a data center person, right? And you're just like,
right.
What's the first thing that you know about data centers? Do you know anything about data centers?
Well, that's what's funny. I get a number of groups that they're trying to deploy in that business model, and there's so many components to a data center.
Right.
Period. Right. That it's so complicated that guys are going, okay, I'm trying to figure this out. How do I get in the development side? What do I do? Do I just buy land where there's power? I can't tell you how many groups I get just wanting to know how to invest in it, or paying me just to advise them to do it or not do it. And I'm like, don't do it if you don't understand it, or hire people that understand it. Because exactly. For me, I need to hire more, and I can't just take a broker and teach them data center business. I need to find someone who understands the data center and then teach them how to be a real estate broker.
Right.
It's a lot easier. So
for sure.
Sticking in your lane, I see that a lot. If it, wait it out. At some point, we all know it's cyclical. Real estate turns around. It goes up. It goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be an opportunity though, and I don't know how you feel. I don't think you have to kind of pivot away from your core, but you could diversify. Like, I kind of think sometimes there's opportunities that won't go away, like the data center business might be something to consider, because it's growing. So you might want to do your due diligence and say, okay, I'm not gonna, maybe there's an opportunity to grow my fee business, or whatever the model is. But I do think that we can't ignore what's going on. Like, I think there's something going on with office that isn't going to come back to where it was. It's going to stabilize somewhere. Maybe that's what, but I still think that there's other businesses that they can leverage. I always think that there's more you can do to change your business model and to grow it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Because I think sometimes as real estate organizations, maybe the older thinking is, I'm going to stay what I'm doing. It's safe, but safe doesn't always win either, right?
No,
if you diversify.
But
anyway,
a smart way to do it, to come to my industry, is you partner with somebody who knows
collaborate.
It's partnering.
Great point, Howie. And I think that's the name of the game. Is maybe office we stay, leave it alone, but we collaborate on data centers.
Right. Yeah.
I think the collaboration it's a great point. Excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we should be doing more of that, though. I think we should be doing more of that.
I think inherently we should. I think but I've been in enough real estate partnerships to know that a lot of people don't like them. Because you get in a couple of bad ones, and you're
should we ask ChatGPT or Gork
what to do?
What do we do?
We should. What should we do?
Should we hold or should we diversify? Yeah.
But I think at the moment, this would be the perfect time to diversify. Real estate's kind of in a recession, right? There's there's like a lull in the transaction. So if you're trying to figure out where you want to go next, this is a great time to do it, right?
Look, my guys,
pick
Yeah,
up arbitrage, like pick off the cheap one because you're going to screw it up. And so you're going to lose less money if you can pick off a cheap one than having to come in when the prices are really super high. It's more risky. I don't know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
I've
agree.
got
And you
groups that
learn
are
so
looking to
much about
partner
business.
with, they're looking for
Sorry.
capital.
Yeah.
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
right?
No,
Nice.
sorry,
So
Harry,
yeah, you could, if you're the capital person, you can hang out watching what they do. I mean, this is a great time, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know what? So how, just a real quick story. Years ago, before cloud took over, I was involved in building 2 data centers, for our
wow.
organization because, right. And it was a huge undertaking, collaborating with all of the, the subcontractors and the utility, utility was huge. So I really
Right.
applaud you because it is a huge space. But what we were also thinking was it was going to be additional fee generate for the tenants of the building. So we were in our, in our building because tenants can't really afford to build their own. So we thought maybe there's additional kind of fee opportunity, but we really didn't kind of scope that out correctly. Like we relied on our asset managers or property managers to talk for tenants about capacity, but it became a capacity issue because then we have to essentially become or be, actually be that business of being in the data center business. And I think
Right.
that really, then they decided, okay, no, we're not gonna do that. We're going to stay, we're developers for asset managers, property managers, but it did open up kind of the opportunity. I think now where cloud is, you're basically infrastructure as a service, you're not on-prem anymore. You shouldn't be, basically, that really is huge.
Well, I'm going to add to that, and that you talk about the cloud and on-prem, and
Yeah.
a lot of enterprise companies that I work with that own and operate their own data centers. The CEOs come along and say, "Hey, we're going to save some money here. We're going to get out of our own data center because of the capex we spend on operating our data center. Maybe it's a refresh or whatever they have to do their own data center. We're going to go to the cloud." I'm like, I sell their data center and buy it from them and then manage it. It usually takes an operator to get out about 3 to 5 years to get out of a data center. It's not just turn the lights off and move out next week.
No, it's not. Exactly.
No, not at all. So when they get in the cloud, all of a sudden they give them 3 years. They come back and they go, "It's costing us 3 times as much as we were paying to operate in our own data center. What are we doing? We need to get back and buy our own data center." Now I'm selling the data land to build the data center. It comes right back. I used to be, and we call it repatriation is what we call it. And
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we'll see you soon, because they come right back out. It's way too expensive. I was just at a CTO event where they all said cloud is great. Cloud is like a gas pump, right? Anytime you're filling your car, you're paying for it. Anytime your data's moving, you're paying for it. If your data moves anywhere, that meter is spinning and you're paying for it, and it gets really expensive. It's super nice to have. It's easy. It solves a lot of problems because you're anywhere, but it is expensive.
But you know what it is? It's risk mitigation as well, because I think you have to also include in that the cost of security, and securing your data comes, part with your partners.
Not secure. It's
Right.
not guaranteed secure.
Oh,
And the cloud is not completely secure.
No, well, right. But I think it's, you
Yeah.
got to balance. Do you have the people? Do you not have the people?
Oh, that,
Do you have the
respect.
budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you still
And you
have to
hire
manage
for
that
it.
defense strategy. And I think it's back to outsourcing versus not, or is it, kind of a true assessment of, and then that's the trend. And I think security is driving trends to outsource, honestly.
Absolutely.
Right? And then basically the rise in data center strategies for sure.
Yeah. Well, look at that. There, our hour went. We're here. It's been such a cool conversation, and I can't wait to have y'all back next week because we're gonna have more time. This will be awesome. But yeah, so I will take a minute to do a last minute outro with everybody, and I'll thank our sponsors of our council, but I'll let y'all go.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Howie. Keep it easy.
Yeah, thanks. This has been fun.
Great
conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
See ya.
So for everybody watching the show, this is the CRE News and Views morning show that we have on Tuesday mornings. And I bring some of my friends who know real estate, and we get to chat and do fun things. And this is all from the U.S. PropTech Council. The U.S. PropTech Council is the trade association for the real estate industry in the United States. And we are sponsored by Lerner Associates. So Lerner Associates is the best if you're trying to M&A or sell or, buy a real estate technology company, you need to talk to Ben over at Lerner Associates. So this has been a great conversation, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.